Control and connection cannot coexist effectively. What you need to know is this: the more you try to control people, the less your connection with them. Pause and think about this. Because most times what we call helping is actually controlling. This is Impact series on Insights with Stella. If you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so now for MindShift sessions on this space every week. Under pressure, there is something instinctive that happens. You try to fix things quickly. You correct more. You push more. You insist more. Not because you want conflict, but because you want things to be done right. You want everything to come out perfect. You want order. You want clarity. You want to achieve results. But this is what you may not realize, that pressure increases the need for control, but reduces your capacity for connection. Remember, control and connection don't coexist. So when you are under pressure, there's a tendency to want to tighten your control, but then that reduces your capacity for connection. What you do unconsciously most times is that you begin to direct instead of discuss. You command instead of communicate. You force instead of influencing. And what happens? The other person begins to resist. Sometimes not loudly, but subtly. They withdraw, they shut down, and they no longer connect. And instead of solving the problem, you have only created a distance. Now, let me establish this clearly. Pressure increases the desire to control, but connection requires influence. This is because real change does not happen through force. It happens through internal acceptance. And you cannot force anybody to internally accept anything. That is why control may produce compliance, but it rarely produces transformation. This is the psychology behind it. Pressure creates fear. Fear drives control. Control reduces openness. And when openness is reduced, growth is blocked. Because growth requires willingness, understanding, and internal agreement, not pressure. So when you try to control because you are pressured, you actually shut down the very process that is needed for change. I was counseling a couple, and what was the issue? The wife complained about the husband not agreeing to pray together as a family. He chooses to pray separately, and she believes a family that prays together stays together. She wanted a change, and what was she doing? She pushes harder, she repeats her points, she insists on being heard, and she tries to enforce a change. But instead of improvement, she gets resistance. Arguments increase, understanding decreases, and connections weaken. Now, wasn't that her concerns were wrong? They were not wrong. But her approach was misaligned. Change does not come through control, but inner acceptance. And inner acceptance most times happens through influence. Another wife was talking with me how she suspected her husband of infidelity, and she tries to check by cloning his phone, monitoring his conversations, trying to control his activities, and that generated into a heightened pressure in the home more than she could even handle. And I said, you can't control an adult who is not convinced to change to actually change. That will be a wrong channel of energy. If you must, you need influence. What then is influence? Influence is the ability to guide without forcing, to lead without pressure, to inspire without control. How does this happen? Influence works through what? Consistency, example, communication, and patience. It creates space for the other person to choose growth. And what is chosen is always stronger than what is enforced. There was this encounter a man narrated himself. Looking at him at that time, he was an ideal husband anybody would wish for. He said, before I used to be a womanizer, a die-hard womanizer that even had a lot where he takes girls through. He can even leave the house for days. He will come back home. His wife knows about all his escapades. But amazingly, whenever he comes back, she's always calm. She won't even ask him where he's coming from, what he has done, how he has lived, and all of that. And this was going on. And after some time, he asked his wife one day, said, why is it that You don't even bother to call me. You don't pick a fight. Even when I go and come back, you know what I do. And you're not bothered. His wife answered him. You're still a young man. You have the resources to throw around. Say, that is fine. I know that a time will come when you will be tired. You won't even be able to do all of this. I'll be waiting here. And now you are planting. That is when you will reap what you have sown. He said, those words caught to him seriously. He went inside, took a look at his life and told himself that from that day onward, he was going to be a good husband and a more responsible father. What has happened? Influence, not control. What he was expecting was actually control. And what control does is to create resistance, but rather patience, regulated response has inspired influence, and on his own, he decided to be a changed man, a good husband, and a more responsible father. What is the point? Master influence, not control. You need to consciously make this shift, moving from control to influence. How do you do this? Here is how to adjust your approach. 1. Model what you want. People are more influenced by what they see, even adults, than what they are told. If you want to see patience, show it. If you want to see respect, demonstrate it. Examples are more powerful than enforcement. Number 2, learn to communicate. Don't command. Replace directives with dialogue. Instead of saying, do it this way, say, can we approach it this way? Conversation invites cooperation, but commands create resistance. No adult wants to be commanded. In fact, not even children want to be commanded. Number 3, allow space for growth. Allow space for growth. This is where patience and resilience come in. Growth takes time. When you rush people, you frustrate them. When you give them space, you develop them. Influence respect process, but you know what control does? It demands urgency, and whatever is done in urgency, you know, it's always prone to errors. It doesn't take deep roots. Here's the truth: control creates distance, but connection requires influence, and you cannot influence without patience. Patience is the key driver when you want to operate under influence. You must imbibe patience. You cannot build strong relationships when you try to control every outcome. No, because connection thrives in freedom, not under pressure. So ask yourself honestly, do I control or do I influence patiently? You need to do this because your answer is shaping your relationship right now. It's connection over control. Not because it is easier, because it is more effective. And what grows through influence lasts longer than what is built through control. This is Insights with Stella. If you have not, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on your notification button for another fresh episode next week. Till I come your way again, remain intentional.